This is the Utah High School Hoops Podcast, your source for sometimes informative, but always entertaining coverage of the Utah High School Hoops scene. With your host, Adam Peak. Hey, what is up, Utah High School Hoops fans? This is the Utah High School Hoops Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Peak. And what a holiday break, I use in air quotes, for Utah High School Hoops. The season never stops, whether it's the high school season, club season, high school in the summer season, fall ball. It's a constant thing going on over here at the Utah High School Hoops Podcast. I'm excited to announce my sponsorship with Redmond and their product Relight. You can go to redmond.life and use promo code PEEK, PEEK 15, and try some of their incredible hydration drinks. I've been using them myself. I know I've got a wonderful dad bod that I work hard on at Orange Theory to keep up this stellar physique, but it does help me out a lot with recovery. I used to get a lot of cramping in my feet, and I've been taking this every single day after I work out. It's been awesome. So go check it out. Relight, RELYTE, part of the Redmond Salt Company. Use promo code PEEK, PEEK 15 to get 15% off of your order. All right, so the holiday break happened, at least for school, but it did not stop for basketball. Tons of basketball being played. It was hard for me to keep up with all of it, but over the last week, I got to spend some time in Phoenix. And so we're going to talk about the Nike Hoophall West and Tournament of Champions that was there, because I got to watch some games, see a team in Timpanogos that I had not seen play yet in person, and talk through a little bit of that. And then after that, we're going to get into some of the league games that are coming up here this week. There are some great matchups this week, and we're going to talk through some of them. I might even give some predictions. I don't do that very much, but you can just use it to tell me how wrong I am. That sounds like it could be a lot of fun. All right, so let's get to it here. So in Phoenix, all around kind of the Mesa area of Phoenix, if you're familiar, there was a ton of basketball happening. So at the highest level of this is an event called Hoophall West, and they had some of the best players in the country, some of the best teams in the country. AZ Compass was there, Utah Prep was there, Wasatch Academy, Layton Christian Academy, who is now, as of this weekend, has played the #1 most difficult schedule in the country for scholastic teams. They have not ducked anything. And I was thinking about it. I feel like they were gone. They went to the TARC, and then they went to the Classic at Damien in LA, and then they were in Phoenix. I feel like that team had to have been on the road for a couple of weeks, maybe. So, shout out to, I'm sure, the patience of the coaching staff there, and also just the resilience of those young men. So Layton Christian was there. You had Notre Dame and Tyron Stokes was there. We'll talk a little bit about their matchup with Layton Christian Academy, Brandon Burries and Roosevelt High School. I'm sure I'm forgetting. There was a lot of schools there. It was a fun tournament to watch. I got to go catch a couple games. There were NBA scouts there. There were a ton of obviously high schoolers. There's a lot of media. There was a lot happening at Highland High School in Phoenix. And then below that, they had all these various different brackets. And so from Utah, we had Lone Peak was there, Timpanogos was there, Davis was there, and then Judge Memorial was also there. And so I was trying to get out to catch all the Utah teams. Apologies to Lone Peak. I was not able to. The timing just didn't work out for me to get to one of your games. Part of that was because it was annoying that I had rented an electric vehicle, and there's no charging station at my hotel. So I went one day. I was going to go to the Lone Peak game, but I needed to charge it. I had to drive around to 3 different charging stations that were like 25 minutes apart. And I almost didn't make it. It was kind of annoying. So if you're out traveling, unless you know that there's an electric charging station at your hotel, I would not recommend the electric car scenario when you go do that. But there's travel tip for the day, brought to you by Adam Peak. That's terrible. We don't need to play that. I like experimenting with my soundboard. Okay, so let's start at the top there. Wasatch Academy played, I think they only had one game. Let me look this up. That was the other. Actually, I didn't make it to see Wasatch either. Um, and I didn't make the game. I heard though that Junior County was outstanding. 2026 guard has a tremendous amount of offers. And it's not a surprise to me. I've been able to watch Junior since he was in 7th grade. And I remember even at Youngblood, which, by the way, if you're not following the Youngblood Instagram page, you should. They're going through some of the best players in Youngblood basketball history. And I remember in 8th grade when my son played for Spartamy, which we'll get to talk about with Davis here in a second. They played the Stance Elite team that had Jamin Sundrip and Dean Ruckert and Isaiah Drisdom, and Junior was on the team. And I remember Junior was just he was just at a different level. So it's been cool to see him continue to grow, evolve his game. He was at Utah Prep last year. He's at Wasatch this year. So not a surprise that on a big stage, he showed out. He has offers to multiple Division I schools off the top of my head. Houston, Purdue, Washington, I want to say Utah, BYU, Texas A&M, amongst others, right? So he's a tremendous story here in Utah, and it's cool to watch him play. So you had Wasatch, Layton Christian. I got to watch a few times. I watched them online on the NBA app when they played against Tyron Stokes and Notre Dame Prep, and I would say that was if the Tark and Damian was sort of like Tyron Jones getting put on the map, that game was one where he, I think, really elevated himself. Both him and Alan Ballou played exceptionally good basketball in that game. It was a defensive struggle. To be totally clear, these out-of-state tournaments it's hard. You know, you're playing back-to-back games. Like I said, LCA was traveling for, I'm going to guess 2.5 or 3 weeks, sleeping in hotels. You're eating not the greatest food. It's a hard environment for really anybody. If you've traveled for work, you understand. Now just take that and imagine playing a 30 minutes in a basketball game in front of a bunch of NBA executives and scouts and you're 17, 18 years old. So Notre Dame struggled to hit it. I don't think they hit 1-3 in that game. And LCA avenged an earlier loss. They played them at the Tark Classic. They avenged that loss and won the game. And I think for Tyron Jones especially, it really put him on the map. Not just, obviously, he's committed to UNLV, but it put him on the map even for, post-college, like professional basketball playing. So he had a really great tournament overall. Then they went and played. Let me think who else did LCA play. I should have this pulled up or at least remembered. Oh, they played St. John Bosco. And that game, St. John Bosco is, I want to say, the 5th ranked team in the nation. Both St. John Bosco and Roosevelt, those two games, the first half was just a defensive masterclass by Layton Christian Academy. And in the second half of both games, teams just started making shots. And that's going to happen, right? You're going to have those moments. You're going to have those games. St. John Bosco got really hot. They've got I think his name is Christian Collins, maybe at St. John Bosco. I'm not on the national scene. So anyway, he was number 11. He was lights out. And then Brandon Burries at Roosevelt played exceptionally well in the second half of that game. So LCA goes 1-2, but again, they have played the hardest scholastic high school schedule in the country. And this was kind of at the tail end. And we're going to talk about LCA here in a little bit when we get into some games that I'm looking forward to watching this week. Let's talk a little bit about Davis. So the Davis Darts have been at the top of, my, 6A list here for a while. They've been, I think, number 1 or number 2 or number 3 behind Harriman. I'm considering them moving them up to number 1, not because of anything Harriman hasn't done, but again, because Davis went out. They played a very difficult tournament. They were down 15 in the second quarter of their game against a high school from California in the championship of their bracket, and they pulled it off. Coleman Atwater was the MVP of that bracket. Bodie Sparrow, JT Turley were named all tournament team. I got to watch them play. And I will tell you, I don't know if there's a team that when they are executing on offense gets better looks than Davis. They are, they run their offense at such a fast pace with so much ball movement that if you are not a disciplined defensive team, you're going to get caught and you're going to get cooked. And the other thing is you're going to get tired because these guys don't take bad shots. They'll take contested shots. The semifinal game I watched, Coleman had some good looks. He didn't have a ton fall, but when it mattered, he hit the 2 free throws that gave him the win. And then JT Turley had a game-winning steal. JT had like 10 or 12 points in a row in the second half. Those two guys in the backcourt, and really the entire team, they play so well together. That is a team that in a tournament, I think is able to execute and outplay anybody in the state. Quite. I mean, outside of Utah Prep, but if they were to play Wasatch, I think it would be a really good game. I really do. Just because they execute at a high level and they make you play defense. And if you played basketball, you understand when you are playing defense for that long of time at that rate, it makes you tired on offense. And the more tired guys get on offense, the more turnovers happen, the more bad shots are taken. A cut isn't as hard. You don't want to set that screen as well as you could. You don't want to go get an offensive rebound because you're like saving your energy to go back and play defense. So it was good to be able to watch. This is the second time I've watched Davis, and they did the same thing. Even in the Bingham game, which they lost, but I think that's their only loss on the season. But I thought that Davis played. They played a great tournament. So shout out to the Davis Darts. The other team that I was there able to watch is Judge Memorial. So Judge was in a different bracket than Davis. And similar to Davis, not a similar playing style, but Judge is starting to unlock some stuff in terms of their continuity and sort of building on what they had last year. And this was a tournament where that really came out. So offensively, JJ is the engine that makes things run for Judge. He was the MVP of the bracket. Dang Dang played really, really well. There were quite a few coaches that were in attendance at the Judge games, and Dang played well in front of these coaches. LA Longar played really well. Also, both of them were named to the all tournament team. Majak, Iman, and AJ all played their roles and had big moments at various times of each game. And so they played a couple of teams from California, and then the championship played a team from Tucson, Arizona, who had a kid on their team who had you not scouted him and you saw him kind of warming up, kid had glasses, he's a point guard, he was nice. I mean, he was had the ball on a string, was pulling up from all over the court. He kind of looked like Jimmy Neutron sort of, but super competitive game. Judge ends up winning by 5, like I mentioned. JJ was the MVP, and then Dang and LA were both named to the all tournament team. Deservedly so. They all played really, really well. Let's see. So the other team I got to go see, like I mentioned, I didn't get to see Wasatch or Lone Peak, but I got to go see Timpanogos. We'll talk about here in a second. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that right. Right, Utah people? I'm saying that word correct? Okay. I sure hope so. So I got to go see Timpanogos play. And it was an interesting game. So I think it was a 1-point game. It was very physical. It was a bit of a strange game. There wasn't a ton of flow to it, but it was a 1-point game. And then at half, I don't exactly know. Was it it was halftime. They came out with 5 bench players, is what I could gather. And I wasn't exactly sure why. I'm not the coach. I wasn't there around the team, but it was a 14-0 run by the other team. And now it was a 16-point game. The starters came back in at the 4-minute mark. So, I'm assuming it was something was said or something was happened, or, trying to send a message, getting into league play, whatever. I've coached before. I understand sometimes you make decisions that are for the long term, but the starters couldn't really recover. But here's what I will say. is in 4A. I don't think that nobody can afford to sleep on Timpanogos. They have exceptional guard play. And anytime you can get really good guard play and guys who can make shots, specifically Jackson McQuiston and Cooper Harris, those two guys they take good shots. They are also extremely effective around the basket. So Jackson has a great pull-up game. He kind of has a similar game to Brecken Saunders at Morgan. Very similar body types. They can both elevate. Jackson's left-handed, Bracken's right-handed. I think they were even teammates at Utah Valley Prime, but both have sort of similar games. And Jackson is a knockdown three-point shooter as well. But Cooper Harris, the 2027 guard, which, by the way, there's a lot of really good guards in that 2027 class. We'll talk about another one of them here on the games to look forward to. But Cooper Harris he's very shifty with the ball, and he's able to get in the paint. He's got really, really good footwork down low, gets guys off of him, guys who are a lot bigger than him too. He's able to, throw some ball fakes, doesn't travel with it, finishing around the basket, and has a really beautiful looking jump shot. So while they lost a couple games, I think ultimately it was a trip that's going to be, good for them going forward and kind of building their team. And like I mentioned, Lone Peak, I want to say they went 2-1, maybe 1-2, 2-1. I wasn't able to watch them play, but I've seen them play. Who do they play? I saw them at Pleasant Grove, and that's obviously a team with a tremendous amount of talent. All right, so let's get into this here. And there were other teams who played over the break as well. There was league play that happened. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I was able to see. If you want to know what happened during league play, we'll give a shout out to Murray. Murray went on the road at Riverton, got a big win. It's good to see Isaiah Bay back. I think if we're talking about 4A, Timpanogos, Payson, Green Canyon, who all get to go watch on Friday up in Logan when Judge goes up there. Murray is going to be right there. I mean, that's a huge one. Riverton is a good team, and for Murray to go on the road over break and get a win, I think is really impressive. So that's another team I think in 4A that should be on the lookout for. All right, I'm going to pull up a couple of things here. I just screenshotted these and threw them into a little PDF. There's nothing fancy about this, but a couple games that are happening tomorrow as sort of the regularity of school kicks back in. You're going to see a lot more continuity to scheduling. It's not going to be as chaotic up until we get to the tournament, and then we'll have a ton to talk about there. But I think some really good games this week. I've got Layton Christian at Payson is tomorrow. And this is a sleeper of a good game. I got to watch Payson play a little bit over Baller TV when they were at the Tarkanian Classic. And they're 11-1. They're at home. The crowd is going to be rowdy. And like I mentioned, LCA has been on the road. They probably got back early AM on Sunday, something like that. They're back in school today, and then you got to get back on a bus, go all the way down to Payson. This is a sneaky good game. Now, like I mentioned, if I'm going to making predictions, I think that LCA has unlocked how their style of play, which is get the ball in the paint, crash the offensive glass and fly around on defense. I think they're going to make things very difficult on Payson to score. They did that against Timpview. It was very difficult for Timpview to score. I think that they can really lean on their defense. But Payson gets a couple guys going. We saw Drez Jensen at Viewmont get going at LCA. That game was close. Could this be a game that has an upset there? Yeah, it's got upset potential. I think that LCA is probably the favorites. I suspect that they're going to win, but I think it'll be a lot closer than most people would think. The next game I've got on here is the aforementioned Timpanogos is going on the road at Provo. So Timpanogos had I want to say their only 2 losses of the year maybe were at the Nike Tournament of Champions. I don't know about high school rivalries here. I'm going to imagine that the fans in Provo are going to be showing up thinking like, hey, we're probably the underdogs here, right? That's probably how they're going to approach this game. I'm going to pick Provo to win it because you're at home. I really like Makai Allen's game. I I wonder if there's going to be a little bit of a lingering impact from the Phoenix game, but it's going to be close. It's going to be a game that's going to come out of the wire in the fourth quarter. So if you're in the Provo area, you're looking for them to do on a Tuesday night, you should head on over there and check out that game. All right, let's keep going here. I got 8 games to kind of go through, and then we'll wrap this thing up. I've got Alta is going to Skyline. I didn't watch the Alta game against East, but Alta was at home and had a 7-point deficit in the first half. And so again, I wasn't at the game. I didn't watch it. I don't go back and watch film. I'm not crazy like that. If this was my full-time job, I certainly would, but it's not. So I guess the question is, which Alta team is going to show up? The one who outscored East by 28 in the second half? And I know that Zach Papke had what I think he had like 21 points or something like that in the second half. Is that team going to show up? And Skyline is, what are they sitting at? 7-5? Skyline's at 7-5. They're fresh off of a win. They're at home. It's the first game after break. There's going to be a lot of energy in the building. You've got some, at least that I know of, some AAU teammates involved with Zach Papke and Itai Lustgarden, who had a great game in his last game. Part of me wants to take Skyline in this game, honestly. Similar to the Provo Timpanogos game, I think that the home court advantage might play out, and I think that Skyline can steal a region win here. So give me the Eagles in that one. But again, I think it's going to be a close game. I'm probably wrong about all these, by the way. Next game is 3A. American Heritage, who has been up and down to start the year. They've been a hard one for me to pin. They're playing at Timpview, and I put this one on here. I think that Timpview is going to win. I do. But it is a litmus test for American Heritage in 3A, similar to a schedule that Judge has played, right? Like Judge played Orem. They played Layton Christian Academy. They played Springville. They've played Alta. So this will be a test for American Heritage to go to Timpview and see where they are at in terms of a team. Timpview is playing, I want to say, better than almost any team in the state right now. Are they going to have some rust after the break? I don't suspect it, but I did, as a freshman, I watched Mana Wintana drop 30 at Judge. He's a guy that can totally take over the game. They have shooters there. So can some guys get hot? Yeah, obviously it's basketball, right? Someone can get hot, but I think that it should be an interesting game. I'm curious to kind of watch what happens with that one. And I think the big one in 5A is Olympus at Highland. I don't believe that Highland has Jordan Oberholzer yet. I don't think he's playing in this game. The matchup between Gavin Lowe and Isaiah Drisdom is certainly going to be one that these two know each other exceptionally well. They've played against each other for a while. The game is at Highland, which is the student section shows out for that game. I think typically, we'll say like role players tend to play better on their home court, familiar rims, familiar environment. You're in your own locker room. There's an advantage to playing at home. So I'll take the Rams over Olympus. But again, it's an intriguing game, right? I think it's going to be a really, really good game. But I do think that Highland is going to come out of this one victorious at the end. And let's get to our last few games here. So I've got Skyridge at Layton. I've had some people who came in and said like, hey, why isn't Skyridge in your top 5? Well, I just haven't really watched them play. I haven't even been paying that close of attention, honestly, to the Falcons of Skyridge. So this is a chance to go on the road at Layton and show everybody that y'all are for real, right? Like, and I think that Layton is vulnerable. I'll take the Lancers if I had to pick, but I'm really intrigued by the outcome of that game. American Fork, we got to talk about the Cavemen here. And they're going to be at Bingham on Tuesday night. I got the most people reaching out to me on my first top 5 rankings, and they said American Fork is way better than their record. You should have them in the top 5. And then I actually replied to one of Utah Ballers' posts that I thought American Fork was going to win the region, even though their record didn't indicate it. And now they're at 2-10. So The question, I don't know, like, who American Fork played in, the Tarkanian Classic. I don't know those teams. Um, maybe they are. Maybe when, I don't know when Bryce Mella is gonna join the team. He's gonna provide a massive lift for them, both offensively and defensively. He's a really underrated defender. If he is back for this game at Bingham, on paper, Bingham should be the favorite, right? They're at home. They have got a better record, but I think you throw the records out in this game. I really do. I think that you've got Jax Euler, you've got Jax Clark. If Bryce is back, Cale Flinders, the point guard, they're going to provide a lot of difficulties, I think, for Bingham. Now it is at home, and like I mentioned, the rims. When I watched the Bingham Davis game, the rims at Bingham have to be the most forgiving rims in all of Utah that I've seen. That helps both teams, by the way. I think there was a lot of balls that had it's a really soft bounce off the rim that found their way in the basket. So give me Bingham, I think, but I don't. The big I don't know is Bryce playing for American Fork or not. If he is, still I think give me Bingham, but I'm way less certain on that one. And then the last game, Lone Peak is going to be playing at Corner Canyon. So Lone Peak and Corner Canyon have actually a couple of kids that don't get talked about very often that I've been able to coach. So I coached them when they were in AAU in 6th grade and 7th grade. So Mo Brown at Corner Canyon and Ty Cogswell at Lone Peak. They're two really similar players, tremendous football players, great athletes, about 6'8", I want to say. They'll probably match up. I saw that Ty in Lone Peak's win over Smoky Hill had hit like 3 threes. He's really developed his outside game. Mo, I was able to watch play a little bit, but it was his first game back from football. And, sometimes that football rust can be a little bit difficult. So obviously you've got Crew, Frothingham at Lone Peak, Brighton and Noah at Corner Canyon are going to create some matchup problems, I think, for the Knights. But this is a tough one because I just like all the games, I'm not probably give me Corner Canyon at home. Lone Peak is coming. They're traveling back again. You get a little bit of that, like, I haven't slept super well. You got to turn around. You got to go to school today. Then you got to drive up to Corner Canyon. It's the first game back from break. I'm sure the fans are going to be there. They're going to show up. Give me Corner Canyon in that game as well. But that should be a really intriguing game also. So I'm excited to see what happens. Like I said, I'm not going to be crazy and try to attend a ton of these games, but let me know who else I missed, or if there's other players that I put out a thing that was like, hey, who should I talk about? And I got a lot of, listen, I just got to say this, all right, about that, and then we'll wrap it up. When I put out that question, like, who do I need to talk about? If you have 0 stats on Max Preps and I can't find your name, it's going to be hard for me to say anything, right? Like, so I got a lot of like, oh, you got to talk about this kid who's a freshman. This kid, don't worry about if you're being talked about as a freshman or sophomore. Do not worry about it at all. If you're playing sophomore, if you're playing JV, if you're playing freshman, whatever it is, don't worry about, are people talking about you? Stop it. Just worry about, am I getting playing time, and am I getting better? That's it. That's all you have to worry about. All of that noise, all the social media noise, all of it, none of it matters. None of it matters when you're a freshman and sophomore, or really it doesn't matter much at all. It really just, but when you are young, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, you need to be focused on, am I playing? Not do I have highlights? Just am I playing? Am I being coached? Am I working hard? Am I getting better? That's all. That's all I would recommend. So I just thought it was funny because I'm like, I don't know who these players are. I should go look. Of course, I'm not talking about them. And I went and looked. I was like, I don't even know what team you play for. I don't even know what school you're at. Like, you're not even listed. So if you're worried and like, oh man, people aren't talking about me, do not worry about that. 0 concern about whether or not that's happening, right? Just focus on the things that you can control, which is your attitude, your work ethic, your how you treat other people, how you spend your time, the type of food that you take in, how you sleep, how much time you spend on social media. I got this thing called a brick, and it's a magnet that you can put onto your. I put it on my fridge, and you can just go up to it and you can tap your phone to it, and it will shut down all of your apps. And so have some accountability. Parents, there's no subscription to it. You just buy this device. I thought it was great. Give your phone to your parents. Hey, I'm going to go get my schoolwork done. Doop. And now there's no distractions. If you want to get it, unbricked, then you can go talk to your parents about doing that. I think it's a great tool. They're like 40 or $50, but well worth your investment. I have no promo code or anything. That's not something that I just thought it was a really cool thing. So everyone go check that out. Hey, make this a great week. Play as hard as you can. Treat the officials well. Actually, I think I'm going to have an episode and maybe even do a live episode where I can solicit questions and comments with my friend Brad, who is the head of the Salt Lake County officials, and just open up some dialogue, because I hear the chatter from parents, and I need to tell you guys something from the bottom of my heart. You're wrong. You are just wrong. It's okay. It's okay. I'm wrong. You're wrong. So much more than the officials are. And the officials get stuff wrong. But you are wrong way more often. Way more often. And by the way, you're emotionally involved in the game. You don't ever say, like, I won't get into what you say and don't say, but you're wrong. So just allow yourself to breathe and enjoy watching your child play the game of basketball, right? It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. This isn't life or death. It's going to be fine. All right. That's my word here to the parents. Thanks everybody for joining. Remember to go to utahbasketball.net to subscribe. So you can go to redmond.life, use promo code PEAK15 to get yourself some great products over there. And we'll be back at some point, probably in the next week, with another episode of the Utah High School Hoops podcast. Thanks so much.